As for the Prime Minister, not another good day for him. He's running out of them before the next election. Now, I stand by my predictions that, look, you've got to see what happens with the Teals. This bloke obviously deserves to go, but we'll all see what happens. Believe me, even when the cricket's on, keep watching this show until we're done at the end of the year. Series link it from the start of the year, because I've got a feeling the second we are all back to work in January, maybe even before, we're going to be off to an election. So it doesn't matter what sport's on, make sure you are watching this show, okay? If you've got the Foxtel box, series link. If you watch us on Flash, favourite the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be a lot happening while the government hopes that you are not paying attention. And I don't want this summer to be like last summer, where people are being kept in the dark, metaphorically, yet still being fed the diet of a mushroom. This government has decided that they are going to try to land 76 planes in 1 week in federal parliament. 76 pieces of legislation that it will, of course, make life tougher, more expensive, more regulation, or create new systems where the government isn't responsible for anything. We certainly know that one of those that hit the deck hard was the want to censor the internet, something that, of course, was formally withdrawn from the Senate today. Our guest, Matt Canavan, one of those who was cock-a-hoop and happy that they failed on one of the 76.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate the great victory for free speech that has been struck this morning. This bill was the most anti-democratic piece of legislation to ever come before this parliament. And I want to say thank you to those thousands of Australians that gave up their free time to fight for the basic rights of all Australians, including future Australians.
As for the Labor Party, now they didn't remove this because they saw the error of their ways. They are still sooking. There are still people that are sitting around that cabinet table who hope that, should they be returned at the next election, that this garbage comes back.
It's very disappointing that, again, we see that teaming up between Peter Dutton and the Greens to block legislation that Labor is attempting to pass and that the community support. I think about 80% of the Australian community would agree that misinformation and disinformation online and on social media is a really serious issue that the Parliament should come together on.
I want you to remember this going into the next election, when it comes to what you do with your number one vote and what you do with your preferences. Because bugger what the how to vote say. The how to vote is not some legal document you have to follow. You're in charge of your preferences. You decide what happens with them. And I want you to remember that it was the Labor Party who tried to censor the internet, and I want you to remember every one of these politicians who stood up when it was in the lower house and agreed with the idea of censoring the internet. Roll that one.
The internet enabled instant communication, but in doing so has exposed us to unforeseen social risk, eroded public trust in traditional democratic institutions and left us questioning the nature of truth itself.
And a big part of the reason that we've seen an erosion in trust in our institutions has been because the spread of mis- and disinformation has been allowed to flourish in this country.
But they can also be used in ways that pose a threat to democratic processes, through disinformation campaigns that undermine trust in public institutions and exacerbate divisions within society.
All the Teals, all the Greens. Remember, these are the people that want to be the tail that wags the prime ministerial dog after the election. The people who want to put forward massive changes to our power grid but wouldn't dare have a single solar panel disrupt one of the doggy parks in their electorates. These are the people who want to ban you from being able to see something that is not officially signed off by the government as the truth of the day. What could possibly go wrong with all of this? The Prime Minister, of course, has changed the subject. He thinks that the big winner is not the plan to censor the internet for adults, but instead to ban certain parts of the internet for people under the age of 16. Prime Minister patting himself on the back as they start to move quickly through the Parliament this week to ban kids' access to certain social media platforms.
I've seen people point out that nowhere else in the world has this been done yet, and that's true. But I also know that every serious government in the world is grappling with this issue and looking to take action. And when it comes to the well-being of our young people, I don't want Australia to wait around on the rest of the world. I want Australia to be one of the leading nations in the world.
Bit of a step down, isn't it? This is the bloke who wanted to change the Constitution 12 months ago, and that would be his signature legacy. Instead, it's about what apps people will be allowed to use in the country. More to talk about with Matt Canavan in a moment or two's time. But while he's patting himself on the back about how incredible this piece of legislation is and how it's going to save a whole bunch of kids, he wanted to leave a little asterisk. One that means when inevitably people break this law, when inevitably people misuse social media, and when inevitably the bullying that has taken too many lives will continue to take lives, he's got a little bit of wiggle room.
I've seen people say the law won't fix everything and it won't work in every situation. That's correct. You can't have perfect law in an area like this relating to technology that will work 100% perfectly 100% of the time.